And so today we have William, who's dad. We have, hi, Hannah, right? And Ian and Haley and Dr. Taylor. So welcome, guys. Welcome back. We're so happy that you hung in there with us. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Haley's birthday. They have things to do. So happy birthday, Haley, first of all. You're 18, right?
Yes.
How does it feel?
It feels good. I'm really excited to vote. So that's like the biggest thing.
Yes, I'm really excited to vote. Not like I'm really excited to, I don't know what you can do at this point, but it's very, I love it. So let's just jump right in because I know that you guys have things to do and your family coming over and we're late. Sorry, Facebook people, everybody out there who's interested and this has stirred up a lot of stuff for them, including myself. I did a deep dive into your book and I'm getting through it. And William, I know that you, like a lot of people, I actually did some more research and I was in kind of a hole of just watching you. I was searching for interviews, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know you were a little hesitant at first. Yeah. Is that true?
Oh, really?
So what, okay, so, because you grew up in public schools?
Yeah, Myiesha and I are both from LA. So I went to LA Unified School. Myiesha went to Long Beach Unified School. And I can remember coming home from work and Myiesha's like, hey, we need to talk. And, every husband, you're like, uh-oh, what's going on? But then, she sat down, she goes, I'm worried about Haley education and I think I have a solution. And she says, I want to homeschool. So my initial words out of my mouth is, you are crazy. Because, being public school kids from California, homeschool was kind of a bad word, right? It was right. Outliers did that. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
But by the end of the conversation, which was about an hour, and Myiesha had her whole presentation ready. I mean, she was going to get the yes, right, from me. But by the end of the discussion, I actually looked at her and I said, so we're going to do this for Haley and we're not going to do it for Ian? Because Ian was in school.
Right.
And then she was like, well, I didn't think you'd say yes to both. I was like, well, we can't leave Ian out of this. I mean, this sounds amazing. Right. So let's do both. And so we went from just going to homeschool Haley to end up homeschooling both of them. And Hannah was not quite ready for kindergarten at that point yet. So she was at home anyway.
Okay. And Ian, can I ask you, what age were you when you stopped public school? And what did you feel about, like, you're taking me out of school? What does that mean? Like, what was the difference for you too?
Okay, well, I started around like 12, I'd say, like 12, like to transition from 12 to 13. And when I transitioned from, to homeschool, I didn't think of it as that much because I know like a lot of people are concerned with socialization and how are you going to socialize if you're being homeschooled all the time. But I found that it was rather more enjoyable to hang out with my friends and people I socialized outside of school rather than being inside of school, because when you're in school, it's a strict area. You can't even do what you want to do. So the fact that I can go ahead and still get a socialization in a more enjoyable way, I feel like it was a win-win for me.
So wait, were you able to, so when you like left school and you told your friends, like, I'm leaving school to be homeschooled, and were you able to hang out with your friends just as much? Like, how did it feel to kind of be pulled out, learning in a different way, and then kind of still hanging out with them? What was that like?
Okay, well, it really didn't change that much for me because I was already more accelerated in terms of school. So when I went to college, it was like, it's almost like I belonged rather than it was hard. Like I actually understood like what was going on. Before I already understood everything. It was rather boring. So the reason why I actually enjoyed school was just a socialization because it was rather boring than actually challenging. So when I got to college, it was like, okay, I fit in. And in terms of hanging out with my friends, I told them, and at my school, people would come and go all the time, the students. So it was more of like a normal thing. It was just, obviously like they were upset, but I told them we could still hang out after school. I mean, we could still hang out outside of school. We can go to Jumper Fun, we can go to Main Event, whatever. It doesn't have to be within school. And they said, yeah, that's a good idea. And we ended up doing that. We ended up going out and having fun. And I could say we had more fun than hanging out in school.
And I'm going to clarify because what he's talking about, he came home in second grade. But what I did was the hybrid school that I talk about. right? Where they go to a brick and mortar place 2 or 3 times a week, and then the rest of the time they work their syllabus at home under parental or tutor instruction. So what he's talking about is being pulled out of the hybrid school to start college. So, but he had been homeschooling since second grade.
Yeah.
So
okay.
his friends coming and going, it was already a homeschool hybrid sort of environment. That he was, you know, working in. So it's a little bit different. And so I wanted to clarify that, because it's not like he went from, you know, like full-time traditional school and then now to college. Like there was a period of time where there's a hybrid homeschool school
situation.
Yeah.
Did Haley go through that as well? Did you go through hybrid at all?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I did. From 11 to 13.
From 11 to 13. And why was that specific? Like why, William or Dr. Taylor, the hybrid piece, like what did that mean for you guys? Is it, you guys just wanted them to have that ability? Like you guys can answer that question.
It was a safety net, to be honest. From my perspective, it was a safety net because of course you have doubts, right? Even though I understood what Myiesha presented to me and sounded great, in the back of my mind, all I could think is I'm going to screw my kids up. We're going to screw our kids up, and they'll be 15 and they'll be in the second grade. And, you know, so the hybrid became a safety net for us to make the transition successfully. And over time, watching the kids thrive, right? And us getting out of their way and just letting them do them and watching them have success, it became easier and easier to not depend on that hybrid transition anymore and do everything at home, right? But we transitioned, and that's what was a major reason for it.
So there are,
sorry, the one thing I loved about the hybrid from my perspective, it's a university model school. So the kids went to class on their class schedule 2 or 3 days a week, and then they worked their syllabus. Because I was always worried, well, how are we going to transition back into a university or college, which is more like a traditional school, right?
Yeah.
Watching Haley master that skill set, and then when she went to the community college and then transferred to the 4-year university, Texas Women's University, she was actually better prepared to make that transition than most high school students because she wasn't in a Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. structure, tardy bells, you roll in every class, because when she got to college, right, no one cares if you're in class. You don't show up, you fail.
Yeah.
So she, to me, had and a lot of the homeschool kids that did the hybrid actually had a competitive advantage of making that transition into the university because they were already used to lecture 2-3 days a week and then working their syllabus. It was not really even a transition for you, right?
Wow. Okay. So I said this off camera before, like you guys have me rethinking, right? And I also want to talk about, because I know that because I'm in the situation of like pre-K kindergarten, especially for parents who are like, oh my God, my kid's going to be behind. And like, the more I read, you know, the more I'm like, oh, kids are kind of they're learning all the time. And it's not like it has to be force fed. It's like through play and through you reading to them constantly and books being around them and things like that. So I think even some of my friends are like, I want to make sure that they're not falling behind. They write their names at 3.5 or 4. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. But I want you to kind of talk on what it was like for Hannah, because did you do kindergarten at home or pre-K at home? How did that work? And for the parents who are now home with young ones feeling like they're going to fall behind some way, and which I want to say to parents at home, from what I've been reading, you're not going to fall behind. You're going to be perfectly okay. So can you talk on that? Talk about that. About
Hannah was not homeschooled at first because Haley, she's 6 years younger than Haley, and she watched Haley do everything. First day of school shopping, backpacks, you know, friends coming over, parties and all that. So Hannah just would wave at the bus as Haley rode away. Like you said, she had this whole thing in her mind of school. So I didn't have the heart when kindergarten came for her and to say, you've been looking forward to this for the last 5 years or whatever, and now you can't go to school. And then Hannah's Ethiopian. We adopted her from Ethiopia. So we talk a lot about girls worldwide and their education or inability to sometimes get an education and how great of an opportunity this is for the girls, right? particularly, right, because of the history around the world of girls not being able to be educated.
Right.
So for a couple of different reasons, when she really wanted to go to school, I just didn't have it in me to say, no, you're going to have to stay at home. You can't have that same opportunity to go and experience this school thing. So I let her go. And so she went to kindergarten in public school, and then she'll tell her story. And then when it didn't work, I felt like, okay, well, let's put her in private school. And that didn't work. So then she came back to homeschool, which was the hybrid. She went through the hybrid as well. And that's where it was more at home for her. So she didn't do kindergarten as a homeschooler. So that's why I wanted to.
So Hannah, can you talk about that? Like, so you actually started at the very beginning in public school, right? And then you went to private. So can you tell me the transition, if you can remember, okay, what was public school like for you? What was private school like? And then the transition of getting out of that, what was that feeling for you? And was there more freedom for you? Just tell me your experience.
Well, I think that when I went to public school, it was more like hectic. Nobody really cared while they were there what people learned and how they learned it, if they learned it at all. And when I was at private school, more people were closer and they cared about it more, but not that much. But when I transitioned to homeschool, it was just me. So I knew that it was going to be all the focus on me. So I didn't have to worry at all about if they were going to call on me, if I had to think about what I would ask or anything. So I think the transition really helped, and that homeschool helped me a lot.
And can I just get into like the gritty of like, public school and private, because you did start at kindergarten, and that's is that 5 or 6 years old, right? So what do you feel like even public school and private school, like I know you said people cared a bit more, but in private school, what was the feeling for you that you got? I know you got more attention in homeschool, but what was that was there a bigger difference for private school and public school other than the attention? Like, did you feel, I don't know, was there any feelings just socially, because I'm always concerned, because my daughter is, she's of mixed race, but she's Black, and my scare with public school is she's mostly surrounded by people who don't look like her, right? And so sometimes if you don't see it, you can't believe that you can be it, I believe. And also there are systematic things in place that can sometimes make somebody feel less than, or you're not talking about this part of history, African American history or African history and all these things. So for you, did you see in private school that kind of difference, Hannah?
Well, I didn't see that much of a difference in public school and private school. I think that in public school, there's a little more colored people in there than in private school, because there was only like 3 people that were the same color as me in private school. So, and we were barely even friends. But in public school, I think that I was more closer to the people who looked like me than I was in private school.
Interesting. So I've been, thank you for sharing that with me. I've been delving into your book, right? And I think it's like, I've been putting like little earmarks, because I'm like, oh my God, I have to go back to that. But you talk about the beginnings of public school, right? And you talk about the creation of it. And then also, I was talking about this with my fiance, and I was like, I want Ella to learn about our history more, and like not just about Christopher Columbus, and so what was that like? Did you have to explain all of this to your children, or how do you go out? I feel like you should go out and talk to massive amount of people about this. I'm serious, just about even just the homeschool mindset. So even if you decide to, listen, homeschooling, I can't do, whether it's work, whether it's finances, whatever it is, what is that thing about the homeschool mindset that everybody can implement in their daily?
Right. And I think that that's kind of the point of the book, right? Because I went to public school, like William said, My mom was a single mom for a while before she got married, and she was a nurse. So she couldn't necessarily just up and leave if we got sick or whatever, right? We just had to wait for her to get off. So I think that utilizing public school is understandable, but I think that we need to understand that public school is not tasked with providing your child everything that your child needs. That's what they have parents for. So it's just one element of rearing your child. It's one tool in your arsenal that you can use to help provide whatever it's useful for. So if it's not useful for the education because your child is so far above or so far below or whatever, but you need it for childcare, okay, I understand that. Use it for childcare. But what you have to understand is that now when your kid's at home or otherwise, weekends, summers, you are responsible for enriching and teaching and hiring tutors or somehow developing your child. And I don't think that people really understand or realize that these public institutions are not necessarily designed for one person. Of course, they're tasked with trying to help as many people as possible. They're charged with educating as many people, as many children as possible, not your child, right? And so we send our children there thinking that it should be like some sort of customized, like a dinner plate, when really this is public school. Like for everybody. So it's not going to necessarily be perfect for your child, and that's okay. And so if you change your mindset to realize that school is not going to necessarily be customized to your child. That's not what it's designed for. And it can't do that. It can't be all things to all people. It empowers you to take advantage of some of these other opportunities, because if you believe that school is supposed to provide everything for your child, their dental checkups, their lunches, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, their childcare, their education, the social services, everything, then your child is going to miss out on a lot. Because while schools do try to provide everything for everybody, they just are not successful.
They just don't have the
capacity, right?
Yeah, they don't have the capacity. I also thought it was really interesting, like even did you find that or anybody can answer this, when the kids kind of transitioned to this hybrid model of homeschooling, were they able to kind of follow their bliss in like what they were good at? Like what you saw, okay, one person was really good at math, and so, or reading or whatever it was, so that you were able to customize a more specific curriculum around each kid. And it, because I guess my question is, a lot of kids are kind of thrown away as like, oh, they're mentally, they don't have the reading capacity, they haven't read they don't know how to read by third grade, or math, they're just bad at it, all these things. And the more and more I look into this, in these like people who actually took the time to like test, and not just test, but like do, what are they called? What is it called? They basically went into like some of these kids, these areas, and realized, no, they're not stupid. They're not any of these things. This is the way they learn. There's another way to teach them, right? And so the idea that your kid is not slow in that way, they just need a different way of figuring it out, right? So I guess what my question was there something specific that you saw in each child that they were really good at and kind of pushed them toward that way?
What do you think?
Me? Oh, okay.
No,
Haley's like, I don't know. I'm 18 and I'm ready to eat my cake.
Hey, she's the one with the education degree.
Right. Yeah, I think when mommy and daddy started to homeschool me, when I was in public school, it was like, girls can't be smart. You can't really be good at math or science, because it's like that wasn't the point, I guess, of being a girl in public school. It's like, why is that your goal? Don't you want to like get the boys' attention or something like that? And so when I went to homeschooling, I was able to actually be smart, and people weren't like questioning my girlness, I guess. And so, I was good at math. That was my favorite and strongest subject. And so my mom would be like, okay, well, be where you need to be in math to be challenged and interested. So I was able to do, I went straight into algebra. And well, I did pre-algebra, but then I did like an algebra test. I teach myself geometry over the summer, and then I did algebra 2. So I went at this really fast rate from 11 to 13, where I did like, I guess, in all of high school math in those 2 years, but then I was 11 too. So it was like, that was my strong suit, and where I was able to go where I needed to go and at the rate I needed to go, so that I could stay interested and be engaged and be like, just happy and in the space I was in. And I think it was the same for them too.
She didn't even like math. Like in 4th grade, she didn't like math because here in Texas, they teach to the STAR exam, the standardized exam, and your kid can be doing well all year, getting A's, and then they do a practice STAR in, I don't know, January or February, and suddenly, like, your kid has to come to preschool, before school, tutoring, and after school sessions because you don't want your kid to be the reason why property values go down, right? Wow. So no, this is the truth, right? So she hated math because the specific way that it's being taught for the STAR was some regrouping and some, like, I don't know, grid that they use. And you couldn't teach like long division just the way we learned it. Okay, go over, bring it down, subtract, like, fill in the zeros with multiplication. They don't want you to do that, right? Because they want you to think about it a different way. But the parents can't really help because I don't know what they're teaching you at school, but you have all this homework. So she hated math. So my thing is, I'm like, I don't understand how anybody hates math because math is just puzzles. It's riddles. It's a common language. If you learn the language, and now here's a great puzzle to try to figure out, how do you not like math? So I read someplace that part of the reason why some cultures do better in math is because there's an expectation that all children are going to learn it. Like, all children are capable of learning it. So they force the issue. There is no bad at math. That's not a thing, right? So I took that and I said, what, my kids are not going to be bad at math either. So the better you are at something, the more you like it. So my thing, and I tell my kids all the time, I sign them up for all kinds of stuff. Haley told you last time, and they want to quit. And I said, you can quit when you get good. Because when you get good, if you don't like it, then it's because you really don't like it and not just because you suck.
Wow.
So let's get good.
That's so good.
Math, it's the same thing. So I took her, when we took her out, I started teaching her normal, regular math, like I learned it, like everybody's been teaching it forever.
Yeah.
And then she started to like it, which was not a surprise to me because what is there not to love about math?
Right. Well, you're a doctor as well.
Right. And then Tika, to your question, once we got over that hurdle, so during the summer, all of a sudden, Haley wanted to go to advanced math camp.
Yeah.
Haley wanted to pursue these things. And so she got to go do that. She lived on a college campus for 3 weeks and did math every day. But there was 300 kids her age at
doing the same
so
thing.
Got the socialization, positive reinforcement that over half of them were girls, at least. And it became this honestly beautiful thing to see your child move beyond the boxes that society wants to put them in because of their gender or the way they look or their hair texture, whatever it may be, right? She was able to break free of that and go be Haley.
Yeah.
And that to me was the most powerful lesson I've learned from this whole process is adults getting out of the way and letting the kids go be who they were meant to express themselves as.
Well, it's scary, right? Because we think we know everything, but we can't teach them everything at the same time. Yeah. Ian and Hannah, I'm interested in what you guys gravitate towards curriculum wise, and does that push toward what you guys want to be when you get old? I mean, I wouldn't even say get older because you guys are going to be graduating way before a lot of us. But like, what have you guys really accelerated in?
Well, I think I've accelerated in math and like reading more than I have other subjects. And math and reading, I want to start my own hotel chain. So I think that math will obviously play a big part in it. So, and reading also to a lesser degree. But I think that I would have to use math more if I were to become a hotel chain member. But yeah, I think
math and reading.
Yes.
That's amazing. I used to work in a hotel, by the way, if you need some pointers. How about you, Ian?
For me, I have to go with math as well. Like my sister and my mom has described, my mom, she wouldn't really take no for an answer. So when I said I didn't like math, she said, oh, there's like she said, there's no being bad. You are going to get good at math. So eventually yeah, I ended up good liking math. And I remember the reason why I guess I'm so good at math is thanks to my mom, because I know now I don't have to take any more math classes because we took a test called the CLEP, and I studied hard and long for it. And basically, if the lines were, if I pass a test, I don't have to take math anymore, and that was motivating me, not like, because like not only because like I get to be done with, because math, although it was fun, it was hard for me, it was time consuming, and if I can get one subject completely out the way, even if I liked it, that's yeah, let's go, let's do it. So,
Right.
I studied for like, what, 3, 4 months. And afterwards, we went, took the CLEP, and I passed. And yeah, that was pretty much the main subject that I think I accelerated in thanks to homeschooling.
Awesome. That's amazing. So I know that our time's winding down, but what, so you said there's this hybrid. Are there hybrids in other states as well?
Yeah, so when there's an association of like university model schools, and that is a merit badge that's awarded from an organization. Okay, so the reason why I say that is because the concept is the same, but there's a lot of schools and institutions that don't have that merit badge. So if you do a Google search, they may not come up underneath their umbrella, but they do the same thing. So basically, what they do, even in California, right? I have cousins that homeschool in California. So, yeah, I can direct you to,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And so they, in California, have to do like a public school affidavit. So basically, you or somebody has to create a private school affidavit. I'm sorry. You or somebody has to create a private school, and then everything operates under the umbrella of that private school. And California has a few different, it's homeschool friendly, but there's extra rules and layers that Texas doesn't have. And so
Okay.
that helps guide you. And some of these private school affidavit places will offer classes and direction. They'll do transcripts. It depends on how much money you want to pay and which one you find, but they may do the transcript. They'll give you counseling, advice, like the student college prep advice, test prep, things like that. So how much you want that PSA to do for you is going to be based on how much you want to pay to be a
Right.
part of that particular umbrella.
Okay. Did the place that you have had the seal or no?
No, and the
Okay.
seal is not necessary,
Okay.
particularly in Texas. In California, they have where if you want to get UC credits, so that's very specific, right? There's certain things that the course in high school has to have, or a certain rating it has to have. So once your kid gets into high school and they want to go to a UC, there's a layer of complication where things need to have some sort of credentialing at some
Okay.
level. But if your kid wants to go to a private school or they're very young, there is no added value in trying to seek out something that's credentialed.
Got it. Last two questions. How does your family dynamic work with like, you know, obviously you guys work and you have this kid in this grade, this kid in this college. How do you guys all help each other to, or you guys are just all responsible for your own lives and like, all right, bye, good luck. Like,
Well, today she is. So, right? She's reached that point.
right.
I was fortunate I can work remotely, work from home. And I had a lot of flexibility. So like when Haley, especially as Haley started progressing into the college path, I was her driver. I mean, I drove her. We drove back and forth every day. The college she was going to was about 25 miles from the house. So we just went back and forth every day, and we did it. And I'd take my laptop with me and I'd sit at Starbucks for an hour and a half and do work. And she would text me and say, okay, Dad, come get me. And we would go.
Awesome.
I think that I'm the one that finds all the resources. I'm the one that comes up with all the great ideas, right? At all of my mom groups and sign my kids up for everything that comes up on my feed. Oh, my kid would love this. Oh, I'd love this, right? And Haley did. Ian's like, okay, Mom, I love you, right? Let me lead with that.
Let me lead.
I love you. I really do. I appreciate you. Can you please stop signing me up for everything that you see? Because you signed me up and then I'm stuck with that for 6 months or a year. And I just would rather for you not to do that anymore.
I love that he has the communication to say, love you, Mom, but please stop.
Please stop. Please stop. And then he's so sweet because then he'll say, I mean, if you really want me to do it, of course, I'll do it for you because, I do really love you. But if you are asking me my preference, I would prefer that one, you check with me before you sign me up for anything.
Mom, check with me. He sounds like an adult.
And then please don't.
Right. What do you guys like to do for fun?
Oh.
What do you like?
Okay. Well, I mean, so I like doing anything electronics media wise. Like I play video games. I have a lot of friends, so I will be playing video games with them. I do 3D animation. I do arts and crafts occasionally with my sisters. And I obviously watch TV with my family. Just a lot of electronic media type of stuff. That's what I like to do in my free time.
Perfect.
I like to watch TV and read.
Me too.
And cook. Yeah, I like to I like to cook and bake sometimes, and I think that's really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. I really like to read and write. Those are really fun. I like playing the piano. I play video games with Ian. And like you said, we do crafts and stuff with each other, and then watch TV with the family.
Awesome. So Haley wants to be governor and then president. And Hannah, you want to own a chain of hotels. And Ian, what do you want to do?
I'm thinking about it. That's why my major is disciplinary studies, just so I can explore my options. But currently, I'm going to try to be an ER physician like my mom.
You got one. You got one. I know you were pushing. William's like, yep, she got it. Guys, seriously, you have turned my world upside down in a good way, because it's making me more thoughtful, and it's being in the house actually has made me more feeling like, okay, I want to take more control of my child's career education, right? And it just has me thinking out the box, because like you, William, when I grew up, like the kids who homeschooled, it was like, what is that? You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's, and because I never saw anybody who looked like me doing it, I was like, I don't understand it. And I was a kid, you know? So I just want to thank you guys for joining us for these technical difficulty sessions, but I'm glad that we're getting out the word on just something else to really think about while we're home, especially because, hey, we might be inside for the next, not inside, but like teaching our kids inside for the next year. So I think it's just giving a lot of power back and realizing parents have the power to really change the course of their children's education. And so everybody make sure you go get the Homeschool Alternative, which it has amazing resources, and just, it's a great read, and it's like you're just talking to you guys, literally. It doesn't feel like it's like instructional where you're like, what the heck are you talking about? And so I'm really excited to continue talking to you, because I'm going to email you about some questions that I have. We might do a few Zooms on our own. And I'm just grateful, and happy birthday, Haley. Happy 18th birthday. We're really proud of you guys. And like you said from the beginning, everybody make sure you're registered to vote.
Yes.
And so, Ian, Hannah, thank you for sharing with us your stories. And William and Dr. Taylor, you're fantastic parents. I mean,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now you're all our homeschool parents, so you might be hit up a lot. Like, where should we go? Oh, also, if you can send me resources so we can post on our site, just like things that you were saying. I literally thought of you because I was like, I read ABC Mouse, and Ella's always asked, she's like, can I do ABC Mouse? And then the first thing she put on was like a Spanish lesson, you know, and I was like, on her own, just on her own.
Yeah.
It's
you
great.
know, it's great. So simple things, but like impactful and thoughtful things make the difference, parents. So thank you, family, for hanging out with us.
Right.
Bye, guys.